If you want to get a reaction for BookTube, make a list of the best books. Hello and welcome back to Bookish, and welcome to a video in which I'm going to give my reaction to the New York Times list of the top 100 best books of the 21st century. Man, has that article caused a stir here, at least in my little corner of the BookTube. I can't count the number of people who've made reaction videos, and I've watched pretty much all of them. I'll leave a list of some that I watched down below. I'm not going to go back and try to look up every single one. But, you know, I looked at the list. I accessed it on the New York Times. I counted how many of the books that I'd read. I did not fill out a ballot to nominate more books because, well, I just don't want to take the time to try to think of however many books it was. By the way, if you're counting and interested, I'd read 38 of the top 100 books, which made me feel pretty good. There's some books that are on the list that I have no intention of reading. There's some books on the list that I thought were intriguing. There's some books on the list that I've intended to read for some time, and this gave me a little bit of a jolt to get back to them. But what I'm more interested in is how we react to things like this. And I don't want this to sound like I'm scolding anybody. I know this is all in fun. I know that even when people appear to be angry or upset or dismissive of the New York Times list, that they're having fun, and all those videos are fun. The lighthearted ones, the angry kind of ones, I think they're all fun. But there's a couple of things that have occurred to me that I think people know, but I just wanted to kind of give my 2 cents about. The first is, and I've seen many people say this, is that any list of the best books is going to be subjective. And you know, I do think that appreciation for art and literature, writing, books, etc., fiction, nonfiction is an art. I do think that any type of that is subjective. It's subjective in one sense, and that's the sense that no two people have the same set of standards. And to be honest with you, I don't think two people should have the exact same standards when it comes to judging a work of literature or work of fiction or work of nonfiction. But I think what is objective is that you as a reader establish your own criteria, your own rubric, if you will, your own set of standards, and you apply that set of standards consistently. Then, at least in terms of your choices for best books, it's not subjective. It is objective, based on your own taste, based on your own ideas, your own standards. And really, I think to a certain extent, that's what happened here with the New York Times. So one of the things I think is often seems to be somewhat overlooked is that this is not the New York Times list of the best 100 books. It is the New York Times compiling a list of surveys they sent out to book influencers or luminaries, I think as they put it, who then sent in their choices for best books of the 21st century. And to kind of blame the New York Times for the Anglo-centricity of the list, to blame the New York Times for the list being, populated by award winners and things like that, is really misplaced. It's not the New York Times who chose the books, even though I think some of their editors contributed their own list. It's not the New York Times that chose the list. It's those hundreds of people they sent surveys out to. So that's kind of an important thing. And I know it's fun to bash the New York Times for being elitist, for being, American-centric, or at least Anglo-centric in its reading and all those kinds of things. And that's fine. I'm not here to defend the New York Times necessarily, but I do think it is important to understand that this is not a list the Times came up with. 5 of their editors didn't go into a room and create this list. They compiled data, and on top of that, they then left it open to the reading public to fill out their own survey, and they published that list as well. So I think there's something just kind of inherently interesting and democratic in the small d sense of the word about that process. The other thing I think that's kind of important to remember about that process is that we are talking about the New York Times. It is a newspaper published in the United States. Most of the people who got its surveys, and I would hazard a guess, most of the people who filled out the reader surveys are in fact English speakers. Most of them probably live in the United States or Great Britain or Canada or other places, Northern Europeans. And so I think it's natural that the list kind of favors authors who publish in English or are translated into English and then kind of made a big splash. For me, I noticed that Jan Foss's Septology was on the list, and I was a little bit surprised by that. And then I remembered, well, he did win the Nobel Prize, was awarded the Nobel Prize this year or last year, and that brought a lot of attention to his work. And so when people are thinking of, kind of highbrow, important literature, I'm sure, his name appeared there. Not that they didn't enjoy the book at all. The other thing, and probably one of the last things I want to remind you, is that no list of books is going to make everybody happy. And I know that the people who made videos in which they were critical of the list understand that. And again, I'm not scolding them for making the reaction videos. They're great, and I loved all of them. But you know, you're never going to have a list of books that's going to make everybody happy. I saw that the roving reader, Kieran, had posted this on Threads, and I agree completely. And so, you know, to me, when I looked at the list, I didn't expect it to be 100 books that I agreed, you know, with every single one. I mean, when would that ever happen, that I thought every single book chosen by another group of people deserved to be in the top 100? But what I looked at it as is just kind of what I indicated at the beginning. It is a list of books that, you know, I either learn about, or I'm reminded about, or that I'm reminded that I don't have any intention of reading. The same thing is true for the list compiled by the readers. And so I kind of looked at the list like I look at prize lists. You know, to me, when the Booker Prize long list is announced, that's the most interesting moment in the Booker Prize for me. Those 13 books on the long list, you know, become a list that I go to for books that I think I might find interesting. And I usually read 2, 3, 4 books from the long list, ones that seem like they would suit my taste. And the same thing is true with the New York Times top 100 list. So, you know, I enjoyed everybody's reaction. I assume there'll be more. I hope there are more. I hope there are more that are frustrated, that are angry, that are happy, that are, you know, philosophical. I love the fact that Shelly Swearingen created her own survey and made her own list. I'll leave a link to her video down below as well. But I just really think that this is one of those moments that we as book lovers should be celebrating, that this list has created this much interest and generated this much interest among us as readers, and kind of enlivened the discussion. I think that's a great thing. Anyway, there you go. There are my thoughts about the list. I look forward to your comments in the comment section below, and as always, thank you for watching.